But just here's an opening question for week 9. It's not a question. It's a request for questions. Everybody who's here knows that we can all ask each other anything, anytime already. So I don't know what good this is doing, but I was throwing this out there.
I did have some questions though.
Does Menti let you add more than one? The way it's set? Okay, good.
I think so. Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. Oh, and I didn't drop the link in the chat. I'll do that. We'll give people another minute or two. And if you want to put any questions on the public record, here's the chance.
You're muted, Jake.
Sorry, thanks. Hey, Lucas, just want to say what's up.
Hello.
And Lewis.
Hey, Lewis is here too.
Hey, Lewis.
Nice. All right, now people are sneaking in.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. My internet may be a bit slow today. God damn it.
Oh,
We can hear you. You
Yeah.
sound good.
It decided to embarrass me today. So my internet is having issues. It just disconnected on its own on my end. But yeah. What I missed? Did I miss anything?
Nope, we just got the opening question here. Just quick AMA. And we'll get started in just a moment. All right. So as always, the question is still here on the screen. The link is in the chat, or you could just go to menti.com and enter this number. But we'll shift to a quick check-in round. Everybody knows that drill by now. And then we have a relatively short and sweet agenda today. I'll pull that up on the screen. Where did it go? Oh, I know, because it's over here. Nope, it's not. How about this? There we go. So today's agenda, like all the other ones, we're on week 9 out of 10. We'll do a quick check-in, and that's AI slop sneaking in. But everything else I did cut and paste or write by hand. Newman's going to give a quick update on how you got Andamio Dev running, and I know that you have PR. And then Diego planned this agenda that we can see right here for the meat of today's session. So excited to jump into that. Let's do a quick check-in round while this is still on the screen. We'll treat these questions as the feedback. We'll answer the quick ones quickly or follow up with the longer answers later. And then we'll jump into the agenda. I will pass it over to Sebastian to open our check-in round.
Hey, buddy. Glad to be here. Yeah, great session. Let's get the party started. Thanks a lot.
nice.
And pass it
to Newman.
Hey, thanks, Sebastian. I'm doing good. Yep, I'm excited to show off folks this the getting Andamio Dev course and repo working with Codex. And I'm excited to invite everybody over to the Piece of Pie hackathon that Harsha and I have been working on and is funded over in Gimbal Labs. Come and join us and consistently build a project that you've been putting off or anything in the next 12 weeks. And I'll pass it over to Harsha.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I've been pretty much working on the piece of pie hackathon and just like learning some Java, which is weird, but I'm doing like a course. So I'm learning Java. So yeah, yeah, it's been fun. And I will pass it on to Lucas.
Hey everyone, Java is the one that I've never touched. I'm proud to say I've touched a number of languages, but and ironically, it's so similar to JavaScript. Apparently, they say, right? I'm not sure. So all good here. Just finished an hour and a half of Web3 workshop, and happy to now be able to zap back and forth. I will be having a look at you guys' hackathon, and yeah, I'll pass it on to. I think Lewis went? Who's missing? Diego.
Thank you, thank you. Doing good here. Very excited to workshop some ideas with you all today. I put this together because I want to replicate it with several other projects. So any feedback that you have today, first reactions, recommendations, I'd love to hear them. And I feel like there's someone else, but I can't see anybody else on my screen.
Did we hear from Lewis?
Oh, no, yeah. I guess everybody went, yeah. I'll pass it back to you, James.
Lewis, how you checking in?
You know, I was hoping I'd be a ninja in the background and no one would notice I haven't checked in, but yeah, I'm doing great. I'm also really excited for the Piece of Pie hackathon. I've been arranging a few things on my end, so at least when I'm participating, it's easier. Yeah, other than that, I pass it to James, I guess.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm showing up energized. Some projects that we've been thinking about for a long time are really starting to come to life. And no small part of that is the Gimbal Lab summer work. So Newman Harsha, thanks for getting Piece of Pie up and running. I helped Aomi get started yesterday. And she's thinking about how to divvy up tasks and start onboarding people. And we were talking right before we officially started, just with that concept of it's one step to build a project on Andamio using the current app, but then the fact that you can take that project and build your own UX around it. And that's one of the things we've been exploring here in Pioneers is starting to get people to that point. That idea intuitively made sense for Naomi, and it was really exciting. And so we'll see what comes over these next weeks as we all start to really build on top of that API. And so this 10-week program has been a good regular chance to get together. But I'm excited for what follows this in terms of building and the sorts of ways we might get together that we haven't planned yet, but we'll need once we all start creating things. I'll go through these questions just quickly because we like to start with feedback, and questions are one form of that. I'm going to pass this one to Sebastian in just a moment. The Homebrew app, actually, is that the Windows version of the Homebrew installer?
It's the Homebrew installer. It works for Windows, Linux, and Mac. I thought it was only a Mac thing.
Oh, great. Yeah. It comes in handy. So yeah,
Absolutely.
as long as you have NPM and Brew, you should be able to install most software these days.
Yeah.
But good. I'm glad you got that. How is Andamio positioning its value for the post-fintech Web3 wave? My goodness. Well, I hope that wave is a real thing, because that's exactly what we've been positioning ourselves for. And one question I have is, when is the right time to step out into a broader community with a what comes after DeFi kind of narrative or messaging? Is it worth it to spend time on that? I am a personal believer that the like kind of creation myths of DeFi are one of the biggest things holding blockchain back. But I haven't yet seen conditions for that being a message worth sharing in a productive way. It feels like a lot of us are still looking for like DeFi to solve all of our problems on Cardano first. so that maybe then we can explore other things. Whereas I think the opposite approach is true, but I'd rather build and not have that fight. So I'm open to whatever anybody thinks, but I think this is essential. And if anybody could reassure me that this wave is coming, I'd be grateful for you just to, validate all of my hopes and fears. So yeah, but we are in all seriousness, the thing we are focused on right now is how to build an enterprise grade product that fully abstracts the blockchain part away so that people can focus on the value prop of having an interoperable, composable credential that anybody can issue, that anybody can honor, and that anybody can use as a prerequisite, but all without needing to open a Web3 wallet. So we're definitely focused on that. I think the organizations I most admire are those that are trying to solve real problems using this tech, whether you're looking at Palmyra or 5AM, which 5AM is already going to be integrating with Andamio, so we're excited about that story. But there's so much that brought us here to Web3 that I don't think is reflected in the DeFi or die narrative that is currently the one we've got. So I'm excited to spin some new tales with you all. Are we there yet? No, absolutely not. I don't know when this wave starts, so let's figure that out together. And as for you on the roadmap to being a super dev, if you're here, you've taken the first step. We should probably give you a credential for being here, which all you have to do is give one piece of feedback on this program. And then guess what? You earn a credential. And these credentials are a new kind of signing key that allows you to access projects and other opportunities. It's a new primitive. It's hard to explain. We're getting better at explaining it. We want it to be easy to explain. But yeah, the reason we've hosted Andamio Pioneers in the first place is that we want to work with other people to help define what this primitive is and how we tell the story of it, because we recognize that it's new and unique, but we need to prove it and we need to figure out ways to do so. So thanks for being here to help tell that story. Obviously, we will keep the questions coming. This whole program that we've been doing is built on feedback. And that's what my project is about, alongside what Newman and Harsha mentioned about Piece of Pie and Naomi's work building Cardano bounties. I'll be spending the next few months really thinking about how we consider feedback as the root currency of a really important value transfer layer. And I think that's something very exciting to do with Web3 tooling. And so that experiment will be ongoing. Any questions following up from that? Anything you want to share?
That whole idea of where am I, on the road, and then I think you answered it with the credential, and that is true. It's just like, if you have that sort of sense of like, oh, where am I with all of this? A credential helps, along with the sequence or the roadmap of those credentials. I always show that talent tree from World of Warcraft. Like a game where you can pick certain credentials and build a character, and how you allocate these credentials and your time building up those credentials is how you play the game. And yeah, that was sort of a throwaway silly question, but yeah, that was a great answer actually.
Good.
A credential needs a talent tree or a map, like how it fits with something.
And I'm realizing while you say that I didn't kick it back to Sebastian to tell us about this one. And this is exactly what we are doing next month. Is we're going to the Linux Foundation's Open Source Developer Conference. to meet with people who can speak to these problems. So I mentioned earlier in this call that they were looking for more people who might be good additions to the delegation there. And that's where I threw in Harsha's name. I was like, let's get Harsha there. But Seb, do you want to say a few more words about what Open Source Cowboy is up to?
Yeah. One of the good things the Cardano community offers to anyone is you can expose your ideas to the people in different scenarios, right? The Open Source Cowboy is a consulting office that is led by a person that was key in the building of the Open Source Cardano Open Source program from Intersect, because we currently have an open source the Cardano open source is this idea is dispersed in several initiatives, right? But not consolidated in a specific program, right? Intersect did the intent of formalizing an open source program, and the person that led the work was the current CEO or director of this Open Source Cowboy. He's not working today he's working in this office. Okay, this person is this organization, the Open Source Cowboy, is connected to outside of Cardano to organizations like the Linux Foundation and many others, right? Some other, for example, other blockchains. I don't remember in this moment the name, but he has 2 or 3. Filecoin. So Filecoin is one of the blockchains he is connected. So the point is, we are working on trying to take the Andamio tech, the concept of the Andamio technology to outside of Cardano, and start conversations, right? And as you know, conversations are the building block to start partnerships and mutual relationships, right? So it's just an exploration. Christian Taylor is the name of the person that is the CEO or the manager of the Open Source Cowboy Consulting. He's the consultant, and he's able to collaborate with us in the same way we collaborate in this scenario, trying to make something together, right? It's not about just the regular consulting client relationship. It's about, okay, you have a good thing, I'm doing this, and maybe we can do some things together, and let's see what happens, right? At the end of the day, it's not about the benefit of a single person. It's about, okay, let's make some interesting and exciting things together. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
I just feel happier when I'm having good conversations with friends. So it's been nice for that too. So I'm watching the clock. We have exactly enough time to jump into these 2 agenda items. So Newman, can we give you 5 minutes or less just to do a quick overview on what you discovered? And then
Absolutely. If I can, let me share my screen. It won't take too long. Basically, I was trying to get the Andamio dev repo up and running, and I was using Codex and not Claude. So I just basically asked. I opened up Codex. Let me get and try to get it working. I was successful, I think. But this was the repo that I was doing. Here is the pull request that I did, and it was just basically says that I was using WSL, which is Windows, Linux, and Codex, and this one was written in Mac and Claude. And so I created a branch that basically sets it up. Now, the short answer is that it created a bunch of symlinks to these agent skills. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with how the skills work, but all of these are the sort of the skills are or little tasks that you can do and that the agents are familiar with. And if you can open them, they have a similar format, and they're using this sort of a protocol, if you will, that each of the skills will look something like this skill.md with a little code fence, with a name and a description, and then instructions that are really meant to be used by the AI. And they can have a bunch of other stuff in there as it gets more complicated, but this in the most basic sense is how it goes. So I was investigating all of this and whatnot, and this is basically what it comes down to. You can open up Codex, the skills, which are generally in this agents file, and then these little dots, these little forwards are symlinks, I think, to this Claude skills. So I mean, without getting too deep in the weeds, because I do want to have some time to answer questions. This is basically what it is. It is on a branch, and I believe the branch is published. It would be upstream. Maybe it's not published. But
It's
I don't.
we can see it here on Andamio Dev, and there's the PR. And
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely worth merging in. I'll
Yeah.
just do a quick review of the README, basically.
Yeah. Oh, and then mostly there's a README to this this branch, which sort of explains what it's doing, and then how you can use it. The interesting thing is, and I'm not certain if, because when I started the Pioneer program, I was just going through the Pioneer course, not really using the builder parts, but more the learning parts, and really not using the codex or the agent, like it can help you learn. So for instance, let's just go back into, so it doesn't show my my prompts here for whatever reason, but you can just say, hey, continue. And it will say, oh, this is where you left off. You're doing this lesson, and you need to, it tells you where you are in your progress. It saves a progress and a progress JSON. And then it's telling me what my assignment is. So it's really like a guided, instructor. You can also look at it through the Andamio app. And I don't know if this one is built standalone, but all of a sudden we've got all of these incredible things available to us. Anyway, that's a little bit of like what I was doing. I think the next thing that I'd really like to do is start building with the skills and the agents, because there's a lot. There's actually quite a few skills that are set up for building. I don't know if they're actually in here, but they are available somewhere. All right, so that's about 5 minutes.
Thanks for exploring that. And yeah, the call to action is everybody has the link to this. If you don't, just ask in the Discord. We'll make sure it's there, and I'll drop it into the chat once Diego gets going. But if you're not using Claude and you want to just try getting this running with any given base model, please do, whether it's to follow on to Newman's work or to see if you can make sure these skills are working. The whole purpose of an agent skill is for it to be agnostic to the base model.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want to make sure this is.
And I've got these links to basically the links that I found important. There's a link to the PR, there's a link to agentskills.ao, and they're sort of, I think, one of those agent agnostic places, and then the OpenAI developers, which is the Codex people. So I can pop that in.
Here. Thank you. And that's great. And we can take one more look to make sure people have the tools they need next week to get going. But For the rest of today, we looked last week at, Diego brought a proposal that maybe we could shift our attention maybe slightly away from being hands-on with the code to thinking at a higher level and some more strategically. And what I love about this, Diego, you mentioned it already, this is something you're building. You want to be able to repeat this process. So just like some of us are here thinking about what can I build in terms of software with Andamio, you're saying, what can I build in terms of helping people establish what they're doing and what they're trying to bring to the world? So I'm excited to hit this in that spirit and yeah, to open up this process to the same feedback that we've been giving each other so far. So I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. And I can relate to that builder mentality so much. I've spent the last 10 years building a lot of data stuff, analytics, right? Working primarily in R. And I can get sucked into the code and the building and the iteration so much that I lose sight of the bigger picture, right? So one of these practices that I've developed over time is after I go through a lot of building, then I have to step back and I have to remember, okay, why am I doing this? Or what is it that I want to achieve with this, right? So I thought it could be a good idea, given that we have one more session. Yes, one more session, to step back, look at the overview, the big picture, the why are we doing this? And maybe that's going to help us refine, all the things that we're building individually, collectively, etc. And maybe, it'll take us to a place where we have more clarity, hopefully, and maybe some ideas for the future. So let me share my screen. Oh, sorry, I have to enable some of the screen sharing settings. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, got it.
Yep, awesome, cool. Okay, finding core stories. Where do I want to go with this? When you step back and you talk to someone who's either going to use your product, your project, right, or invest in it, or build on top of it, having a clear story is extremely key, right? Not only because it sounds pretty, not only because you need marketing, but because it really aligns or helps you align with other people on what is it that you want to achieve and what is it that other people can get out of your project, product, etc. Right? So today, what I want to try is tell you a little bit about what led me here, then explore this very vague concept at times of product market fit, and then go hands-on and look at what the Andamio landing page says, right? And so all of us can explore together, what is it that we are telling the world? What's the story? What's the product that we're telling first? Then through that, think about product market fit and all the crazy ideas that we might have for the future. So hopefully, this is my hope for today. By the end, we're all able to explain how Andamio is seeking product market fit. And by Andamio, I mean not only the protocol, but also any iteration or anything that you're building on top of it, right? I would love for all of us to be able to describe the core jobs to be done, which I'll explain, that Andamio is currently targeting, okay? And if we have time and we are able to go deep, maybe, I would love for us to be able to recognize some of the ecosystem signals of product market fit for those stories that we are identifying, right? So let me tell you why am I here. So I've spent the last 15 years through various roles in grad school and research, consulting, etc., learning how to measure what works for whom and under what circumstances, right? And so I started my career as an educational psychologist or school counselor here in the US, but educational psychologist in Chile, working with schools, advising principals, teachers, and so on and so forth. That led me to grad school because I wanted to learn more about, is what we're doing working? Are we moving the needle for anybody, right? And over the last year, over the last 4 years, I spent good quality time on how can we move the needle for other enterprises who are using products, and specifically analytics products, right? I tend to think about Web3 as an analytics product sometimes, because it's all about data moving in and out of places and how you represent or visualize data in different places. And so my first thought when I learned about Web3 was like, oh, this is like a giant just data warehouse that can be represented in multiple ways, and where people can get value out of who's moving data, where, and how. But anyways, I spent a good chunk of my last 4 years thinking through what is product market fit for this type of endeavor, and how do you make something that is useful to people, right? How do you know that you're contributing to the team that is buying or using your product beyond the very vague general metrics that you will see out there? So let's get started with something very, very broad, right? Please give me a thumbs up, actually, if you've heard about this concept of product market fit before. Some people have, some people haven't. And I really like this very generic definition of the moment that a startup or a team, finds a widespread set of customers or users that resonate with the product. It's vague enough or general enough that it gives you a sense of what it is, but it also doesn't put you into a very specific definition, right? I did a PhD, right? But I'm not a purist, right? So I love general concepts, but I don't subscribe to a very specific school of thought on this, right? I have my own thoughts. But if you look at the top right quadrant of the plot, really product market fit is when you have something that is going to solve a very, very specific, very salient problem for a lot of people, or at least for a targeted segment of people that is very well defined, right? I also left this link to this article here by a crypto news site that I loved because it gives you some structure, but I also think is missing the point in that it's so focused on fintech that it misses what product market fit for Web3 is in general, right? And so I also wanted to say, product market fit is usually sold to you as something that you achieve, right? And it's not, it's a journey. As soon as you have a set of users, other problems will emerge, and other issues and gaps will emerge, and you will have to adjust. And some competitors will come up and say, like, I'm going to copy your idea. And so it's a journey where you constantly adapt to what is it that the people you want to serve need, right? And what is it that your competitors are doing. And it's not a magic sort of moment that happens and then you're set. As many investors or startups will want you to think. You need to solve something that is actually a problem, right? Beyond marketing, you need to solve something that is actually a problem for someone. And the more problematic and salient it is, the easier it is to really find that fit, right? My other very strong point of view on this is that if you Google product market fit, Web3 or Web2, you're going to find a lot of recommendations on metrics that you can use that say nothing. Okay, a good example of this is the something called the Ellis test. Have you guys heard about it? Anybody? No? It's this one survey question, Likert scale basically, that says, how disappointed would you be if you couldn't use this anymore, right? And marketing people love this. And product managers around the world love this because it's so simple. And you can ask only one question and people can click and give you something and you take it as evidence. The net promoting score or promoter score is also sometimes used as a measure of product market fit. And they tell you nothing. And people create these thresholds that say, like, if you have over 40% people or respondents saying that, you know, they would be disappointed or highly disappointed, then you have product market fit. But people could be disappointed for several reasons that have nothing to do with the product you're putting out there, right? And so this brings me back to a broader point, which is when you have a story, a clear story about how you're solving something for someone, you can clearly align your product roadmap and you align your go-to-market team, your sales marketing team, so that you're all rowing in the same direction, right? We're solving one thing for this very specific segment of people. This is why it's important that we're solving it. This is our roadmap to get to a strong solution. And this is who we're going to target. Boom, 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 boom. We're all moving in the same direction, right? Now, beyond fintech, right? What is it that is challenging about finding this fit in Web3 is that it's basically you're building for communities and you're building with communities, right? This is not a closed source. I have an investor. We're going to build something and sell it like crazy, regardless of whether this solves something for someone, right? The OpenAI Sora example is a great example, right? They created this spin-off product based on their models to create videos, and it backfired on them immediately. Because what did people start creating? They started creating either fake political news or videos or basically porn, right? And it completely backfired on them because they didn't really think about who is the community that we're building for, right? In Web3, the challenge really is to start the journey, you need a critical mass of builders, users, and investors that believe in something to get there, right? You also have a decentralized and multiple agenda type problem where you need to bring people in and you need to help them want to build on your project, right? Or contribute to your project. You need to bring investors and say like, hey, do you want to either buy tokens or support us through actual funding for us to keep building, right? And you need enough users right away so that you can sustain the cycle, right? Although obviously this is not, a formula for success, but you do need these pulls and tension and pull-push sort of dynamic where you have multiple agendas converging on a single thing, right? Which is different from Web2, where it's very top-down, and if you have support from a big investor, you are going to find users, basically. In a very important piece of the puzzle here is that rarely you find a Web3 project that solves everything you need to solve for a user to go from I have this need to someone solving a problem, right? Because every single protocol solves something very specific, right? Cardano layer 1 solves something, then Andamio is building on that, solving something else. Then there are other projects that solve something else. Then you need a wallet, then you need this, you need that, etc. So partnerships are really key to go from someone in this market has a need, and then all the way down to we solved it, right? Which is different from Web 2, where like you can design an app that covers the whole customer journey map or the service blueprint, and they just have it all in-house. That's it. You don't have to interact with anybody else. I said a lot, so let me stop here and hear from you. What are your first reactions when you hear this story? Are there any other challenges or things that I didn't consider, or things that you think are challenging about finding this fit in the Web3 world?
Just, I guess, coming from the perspective of feedback on your presentation too, I really appreciate how you're clearly meeting us on a journey. And I feel like you've done a good job describing why it's hard in words I didn't have yet. So thanks for that.
That's awesome. What resonated with you?
Well, I mean, starting from it's a journey, not a product, is like, yes, thank you. And I also, as somebody who has worked under Net Promoter Score regimes before, I don't give them a lot of credence. But I know that we need a way to measure what's working. And then just the multi-stakeholder nature of this work. Yeah, it helps to have that frame.
Yeah. That makes sense. Newman, you left 2 comments in the chat. Help me understand the difference between Web 2 and Web 3.
As far as product market fit, and you went. That's, I think, was your last sort of point, and I was struggling to sort of to get it. You know, it feels like if there are problems and solutions, that that product market fit should be similar or the same, but I think your point is that, hey, look, it's different. Can you help me like get that part of it?
Yeah, no, that's great, Newman, and it helped me clarify my story. So if you're a Web2 startup and you get funding, seed funding, Series A funding, basically the investors will say, this is what resonated with me. You have X amount of months to build something that solves something for this ICP or target market. We will help you sell. And so it's very top down. And the app you build, let's say Canva, right? I'm using Canva now for this slide, so let's say Canva. Canva takes you from need to achievement, basically, very quickly, because within the app, they can solve for multiple problems, right? They can help you design slides. They even have an AI tool now that helps you like come up with images on your own, so you don't have to go anywhere else to look for images. They have a lot of templates. They even have something that I discovered while doing this presentation. I'll share a link with you all, and we're going to play with a canvas in Canva, the app, which something was, it was like 2 different products in the past, right? You would have your canvas where you could collaborate, and then you would have your slides app in a different place. Does that make sense, Newman?
So there's different things that Web3 and maybe AI can do so that the solutions are more immersive or more comprehensive.
Let me put it this way. For me to interact with Andamio, I need at least three things. I need a wallet
Ah,
developed by someone else, right? I need to have ADA. So in my case, let's say I went to Coinbase or Kraken and I had to get ADA there and then move it into my wallet. So I'm interacting with two different apps then. And then I go into Andamio. And I
yeah.
interact with Andamio. Does that make sense?
Now that definitely makes sense, meaning that the market is small, or it requires a couple of gates before you even get to your product.
Exactly. And it also means, from my perspective as a user, that I need to interact with multiple layers of products and people before I accomplish my goal. If my goal was to, let's say, participate in the Pioneers program and learn about Andamio, I had to fill the gaps.
Right.
Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
essentially, we in this program, we all are active super users because we solve the friction for somebody else. But if you want to scale, you have to decrease the friction, right? Because most people won't really engage in so many steps. They'll see three different steps and you have to interact with three different apps. I'm out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes. I love that rebranding of the term.
Yeah. Well, the product market fit, meaning that it fits, and it's it's ready made. You put on the shirt and it fits. But with, it seems like in Web3, it does require like alterations, to use that analogy. Yeah, there's friction. It's just like, oh, okay, I have to, for instance, just this with my coding agent. I was like, oh, okay, I want to use my tool set with the other products, and can that happen? And
Yeah, absolutely.
Harsha.
Does anybody else have any other reactions or first takes of this? Okay.
Maybe I think I don't know, maybe those what you mentioned about wallet, ADAS, and all the process. Maybe it's a friction. It's a frictional scenario, frictional scenario. But I can say this. Oh no! After these years being entrepreneur and builder and being involved in building things, I think, as Harsha is saying, if our concern is, okay, let's reduce these friction points, building our own stuff, our own wallet, and our own way to get ADAS, and let's reduce the friction for the client, for the user. I think at the end of the day, we end up building nothing.
Very interesting point.
And I guess what this Web3 industry is the incomprehensible kid in the whole tech industry, right? And one of the things this industry have to teach to the tech industry in general is the power of collaboration, right? If I need a wallet and I need a way to put ADAS in that wallet, that means I can start collaborating with the teams that are building the wallet, and the teams are building the guardrails or the ways to process this ADA. There is some opportunities of collaboration instead of, okay, I need to reduce this for the user. At the end of the day, I'm sure that these friction processes, this kind of user experiences full of friction were not different in the past for the Web2 industry. And users at the end of the day, they understood that the benefits are more than the 2 or 3 steps you have to feel to get the result you want.
Yes, great
That's right.
point, great point. And I think that's where I wanted to go with partnerships. Maybe I'll reframe this block, but if we think about the headless definition, right, of the app, that's where you start thinking about partnerships and integrations and how do we talk to each other so that we can solve a problem in collaboration or in community, right? Speaking of that, let me actually transition to the first actual hands-on activity. Because we're already thinking about what is it that we're building here or that we're offering the world here, I wanted to spend 5 minutes reviewing the landing page with you all. So I'll send you the links. I would love for you to take notes on what the products are, right? If you read the page, what is it that we're describing, we're offering the world, right? And I would love for you to take the perspective of new users or new builders, new investors, right? What would they say Andamio offers the world? Does that make sense? So let me stop sharing for a second, and I'll send you a link to a canvas that we'll use for this exercise. That's the canvas, and just to make things easy, here's the landing page. And I would love for you all to go to use this first or left block, right? And use the sticky notes. As you read the landing page, take notes on what are the products? What is it that you're describing in the landing page from the perspective of someone new, right? A new user, new builder, new investor, so on. So let's take 5 minutes to do that. Does anybody have any questions before we begin? No?
So I have a small question. So we are assuming the roles of like these random people, or am I just assuming my own role?
You can do both. You can do both. But it's I would love for you to, if you type a couple from your perspective, also try to type or add 1 or 2 from someone else's perspective if you can.
Got it. Got it.
Awesome. Awesome. And let me know if you can't edit them. I'm pretty sure you should be able to edit these.
Hey, is it a rule for the game to just stay on the homepage?
Yes, please.
And it does scroll. I just noticed that.
Yes. So you can scroll all the way down, but don't go to any other pages because the landing page is always very, very telling. How are you all doing? We're 4 minutes into it. Do people need more time?
I just started.
Okay, let's take 2 more minutes then. All right. I don't see a lot of movement, new movement. So I think that we're pretty much done. What's your first reaction? I see lots of different things here. I see an open protocol. I see credentials. I see trusted hiring, accountable spending, and so on. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you read this and you think about what the landing page says? Is there anything that creates some dissonance here, or that makes you think, there are different perspectives on the table?
Well, let's see. I mean, we've got some overlap, right? Open protocol, credentials, system for issuing credentials, tool to build apps, APIs to build apps. Protocol. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't gone through the landing page in a while. I have to be honest. I don't know if have I ever done it?
Were you
Oh.
surprised about anything, or did anything trigger any thoughts?
Well, I think we've come along. Andamio has come a long way from an LMS, and I think
Mhm.
to me, that's the big, and all of a sudden it definitely, what's that thing where they talk about a product? It's like, think bigger. And for me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Cardano app builder, and then you don't need, actually, I've been thinking a lot about Stripe, because I guess Stripe somewhat did a similar thing where they were just like, we're just building the APIs. We don't want to be PayPal. We just want to build the APIs that make financial transactions go. I heard something about it this morning. I was like, oh, what was that story about? Because I think it's pretty smart. So, yeah.
With me, so when I first landed on the page, I was thinking of it from a guy who wanted a credential. But once I landed on the page, I realized the page isn't for me. It is for developers who are building apps that want to assign credentials. So I had to change my persona.
That is an excellent point. Excellent point, Harsha. Thank you so much. That is wonderful. That is an excellent point. Okay, what else came to mind to you all?
I mentioned in the stickies are trusted hiring, account expanding, and risk reduction. I'm trying to see the results, right? Or the what is possible with credential infrastructure, right? Maybe it's more that kind of language is more accessible to the Web2 people. We were talking about Web2.
Right.
But all that is possible with the credential infrastructure and Andamio can provide.
Yes. So there's a tension here, right, between what's possible and what's currently there for you to tinker with, right? If I'm a developer, I read all of this, I get excited, I know what I can build, I have the guidance and so on. Now, if I'm a, let's say, hiring manager at a big corporation, and the problem I need solved is I need to trust the people I'm hiring, right? And I go to the landing page, it's very hard for me to get from A to B. Or from, I need to trust the people I'm hiring to, oh, maybe I can use Andamio, but how? How am I going to use it? And what does it take to use Andamio to get to my outcome, which is trust? So given where we are at time, let me transition back to the slides so that we can connect the dots with the other side of the canvas. All right. There's a framework that I've always found very useful to think about this, to connect the dots between what you're trying to sell and what you're trying to achieve, right? The framework is named Jobs to be Done. And I don't know if you know them, but it's a framework that takes the perspective of the user or the consumer, right? And it focuses on something stable that people need to solve, okay? It's centered on their needs, not on what you're selling, okay? And so the typical tagline of this framework is people hire products to get a job done. I don't buy a hammer because I want a hammer. I buy a hammer because I want to hang something on my wall or I want to build something, right? That's the outcome I want. And so if you reframe your product development from the perspective of the jobs that are stable, the needs, the motivations, and goals that people want to achieve, right? Then your roadmap, your innovation pathway, whatever you want to call it, is focused on solving something for people. Your tools are going to change, your approach is going to change, you can reframe, you can pivot, right? Just like maybe Newman said, the pivot from the LMS to, hey, I'm solving your trust problem, right? You can reframe things if you're thinking about these very stable things that you want to solve for people, right? And one more bit about this is, I don't know if you've been in this discussion before, but in product development, a lot of times you get stuck on what are the personas that we're serving, right? And so people get stuck on this discussion of like, what are the demographics of the segments that we're trying to serve? And this framework takes a different perspective and says, regardless of the demographic characteristics of whoever you're trying to serve, what's most important is the context in which someone is trying to solve something and the underlying motivation. Why do they want to solve that, right? If I'm the hiring manager at this corporation, I want to trust the people I'm hiring, because if I make a mistake, it has huge consequences for my team, for me, for the enterprise, and so on and so forth, right? And that's why big corporations are so averse to innovation, because failing is extremely, extremely high stakes and visible, right? And that's why if I need to trust who I'm hiring, I'm going to go with like a solution that, you know, is promising me mediocre but stable, reliable results. So I'm not going to go through this example, but basically we can find stories or write stories, and I'm going to show you how now, that will clarify what needs to be built or improved so that we can all be in alignment around what is it that we're selling to whom, in which context, in what problem we're solving, right? So given the time, let's spend 5 minutes to write at least one. Let's do just one job story in the format that you'll see in the canvas that reflect the problems Andamio is trying to solve for people, right? So you can take the perspective of a very specific person or not, that's okay. I left two template sentences in the canvas, right? And you can use either one. So you can write a sticky that says, when I'm in X situation, I want to, so I can, and basically you build these story based on my situation, the thing that I want to achieve now, so that I can fulfill an underlying motivation or achieve an expected outcome in the future, right? You can also take the other template that says, as a, let's say, product developer or product manager, or as a, I don't know, investor, whatever. You can take whatever perspective you want there. I need a way to X in order to fulfill an underlying motivation. Do you all have any questions before we go ahead and type? And I see that Harsha already wrote two. Awesome, appreciate it. So let's go ahead and write. And if you can, try to connect a job story to a product on the other side of the canvas, if you can. It's okay if you can't, we can connect the dots together. So yeah, let's go ahead and type job stories and let me know if you have any questions. Let's spend 30 more seconds typing and then let's discuss, because that's the core of the issue. Yeah. All right, all right, all right. I see lots of nice job stories. Pedro or Lucas, we haven't heard from you today. What was your first thought when going through these stories, either reading them or typing them? Pedro, are you there? Maybe you're not there. Let's say Nori, are you there?
You might be just listening in.
Yeah, yeah. First reactions. What? How did it feel to write very specifically what we're trying to solve for?
Thought it was fun. Yeah. It definitely, putting those three things, a situation, a goal, and an outcome into context, I think is a good exercise.
Yeah. I assume that yours is the one with logical fallacies, right, Nima?
Yeah, I did the logical. These are basically, I went from, here at the Pioneer program, we kind of had said like, hey, what do we want to build? And I just sort of picked two that weren't really connected to just something that I thought would be cool to build. And one was something about the logical fallacies, and then also something about paddling a river, or like what makes a river trip. And yeah, like it kind of got to my sort of underlying motivations for wanting those things, which was fun. This is actually something I hadn't really considered, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the river example too, because really what you want at the end of the day is a good river adventure partner.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? How you get there? Well, you might take different avenues, you might use different products and so on, but at the end of the day, that's the outcome you want to create in the world, right? My first reaction actually when reading the Andamio landing page was there are like 3 layers of products here, because the protocol, the API, etc., are great for developers, right? But if I'm someone whose outcome really is to trust in the people I'm working with, right? I can get there with many other tools or pathways, right? I don't have to go into this building pathway and use Andamio. But I could benefit a lot from Andamio if there were other layers on top of it, right? That would help me get there sooner, faster, cheaper, with more trust, and so on and so forth. What else? What else came up for you all?
I've been thinking about this too much, so I don't want to jump in.
I thought Harsha's were pretty good.
Harsh, what are you thinking?
Here, I can read his, and then he'll answer. As an open source repo owner, which we all are kind of familiar with, I want to assign credentials to contributors so that more people are motivated to contribute. You know, I think is the big underlying motivation for open source project owners, like meaning that they want people to use and to contribute. Getting a credential is like a motivating, is a motivating factor. Like, yeah, especially if it's something that you, Harsha, can you tell me more about that one?
I mean, I wrote everything I had in mind. I wouldn't know what I can add to it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good one, Harsha. I mean, I think did we discuss this, James, last week or not? Maybe because I sent you a DM about this open source AI thing. I joined an open office hour for a new lab that's creating like a context engineering open source thing, right? And I thought, any open source project would benefit from Andamio, right? Anyone. Because really an open source project dies unless they have lots of contribution, engagement, participation, right? Like a visible group of people contributing, not only on GitHub. Like some people won't join GitHub to contribute, and that's totally fine. But you need the content creator, you need the person who's thinking about onboarding, you need the etc. Right? So it could be that Andamio turns into the engine that makes open source work in a sustainable way, because you need some incentives, and you need social incentives, monetary incentives, you need a pathway, you need the guardrails, you need like trust, and so on and so forth, right? Sebastian, James, any other thoughts before we close?
From sites, a good exercise to reflect on what we are doing and how we can create more conversations around it, around what we are doing. Yeah, thanks for your effort and work in this.
Awesome, appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep going with this. I want to, it's reminding me, like, I think one thing we can do better in the short term is capture the compelling of the part of that story that I heard Harsha and Newman sharing about creating engagement. And I don't think that's sufficient, but it could be a really nice first step. Like, right, by showing that this type of badge can build engagement in exactly the ways that other ones are designed to, how do we then use that to open the door to the next conversation where we say, well, actually, this also does more than a Credly badge, and
Mhm.
it adds to that stack.
100%. 100%. And okay, so this is I'm going to plant a seed, right? But I think the next step for a group that's thinking through this framework is to think, okay, once we have the core stories that we want to tackle, what are the signals we need to capture in the ecosystem to feed into our story? And by signals, I mean data from the community, Discord, Twitter, etc., quantitative, qualitative data from users, from investors, from builders, and so on, that enrich your story, that give you the meat you need to actually tell a full story, right? But anyways, I'm going to leave you all with this call to action. I'm going to post it in the Discord. But I would love to hear from you, final reflection after this session and you can, add your role in the Pioneers program or in Andamio, etc. I'd like to, and then you can say either learn more about something or act on something that, came up to you during the session or you learned during the session.
Nice.
And I really, really appreciate your participation. Again, first time for me. I had all these ideas in mind, put them together into slides, but definitely want to keep going, repeat, iterate. If you have any suggestions of other places I should go to, or other people who might benefit from this kind of workshop, would love to hear your recommendations. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for wrapping it with us. Amazing. Yeah. And maybe Lucas might have a network to tap there, and Sebastian, let's look for opportunities when we take our show on the road next month to pull this style of PMF workshop. That's, I don't know, are we starting to conflate Web3 and open source? It feels like we are a little bit, or like at least we're operating at the intersection of those two things. So keep our eyes out.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It fits with that decentralized thing. Like open source is that, that could be the thing.
That's actually, yeah, like what is, if we are talking about those two things at the same time, why are we talking about them? And yeah, what are the common threads? And so,
I think usually we are working in blockchain, and we started the call, I think, by mentioning the contrast between DeFi and Web3 or other things. And I think if often DeFi and crypto are based on centralization, maybe the way on the other end of the spectrum, we have this merge or this overlap between Web3 and true decentralization. And if you are actually technically savvy enough, you'll understand it's not Web3 if it's not decentralized, and it's not decentralized if it's not open source. So, right.
There you go. Yeah. Lucas says it. Beautiful.
Thanks for the presentation and for the discussion. I was just listening in, but it was really, really interesting. Very curious to see rehashes of this and aligning with customers or something like that for Andamio.
thanks everybody. Yeah, thanks for putting it out there, Diego. Thanks for giving us the next step. I'm excited to see people's response to the call to action in the Discord. And I have a local branch of the landing page that I've been playing with just to go wild on a different message, but I haven't shared it with anybody yet. But I'm excited to take this transcript and just keep applying lenses until I'm kind of waiting for the moment where I'm like, oh, that's ready for feedback. And so I'll bring it to all of you guys when that happens. All right. Thanks. We got one more session next week, and then we got a few months without a schedule where we get to keep building stuff. So I'm excited to see where we close out next week and to look ahead with you all. Till next time, see you soon. Oh, and this will be posted on YouTube. Feel free to use it however you want to, Diego.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Talk soon.
Bye, guys.